We're rolling.
Cool.
Ian, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll start with who you are, what you do, and what you do with Bozeman Radon, and then we'll talk about podcasting.
Yeah, I'm excited. So my name's Ian White. I am actually a local. I grew up in Three Forks, went to MSU, graduated from MSU in Gallatin College, and I met Jeff, founder of Bozeman Radon, in August of 2024 and started helping them in September of 2024. I actually came on full-time to Bozeman Radon in March of last year. So I've only been doing this for about 2 years at this point, just about.
And did you start as just a tech for him?
Yep. So initially when I started, it allowed Jeff to open up sales full-time. Because initially I would help him on the weekends. I was working 410s at the time. I would help him on the weekends and he would sell during the week. And when I came on full-time, it allowed me to just be install focused, and that opened him up for sales. So that was super helpful.
Cool. And what's the, pretty much what is Bozeman Radon? Like, what are you guys doing? And what is Radon? We don't have to go crazy into it because Jeff did, but if nobody's listened to that episode, just, what are you guys doing and trying to accomplish?
Yeah. I'm definitely the more technical minded guy on this. So we now also do mold. So we do mold remediation and radon mitigation. Both are tied to health. So there's a challenging aspect to this business being tied to health where there's an urgency. And because of that, it requires us to take the work very seriously. I can't give our team enough credit because they do. They take it very serious. They're young, driven, motivated individuals. And as we've grown, it's allowed us to help more people, which is obviously the goal.
Yeah. And remind me, because I know Jeff told me this, but I do too many podcasts. So if somebody, what would make somebody concerned that they might have a radon or mold issue? And is there anything in particular that sticks out, or any places around here that are worse than others, or house types? And then if they think they do, that's something you guys can come in and test for and go from there.
Yeah. So radon, as Jeff mentioned, it's a gas. So it's odorless, tasteless, colorless. The only way to know how much of it you have is through testing. So that is something we can do. The state will also give out tests that people can deploy themselves, and then you mail that into the lab and you'll get your report on return. It's not uncommon for me to get calls where they have a report that they'll forward to me. Mold is a little different. Usually you can tell if it's mold. I won't call it mold unless I have a lab report that says that it's mold. At that point, it's suspect microbial growth. But mold is, I'm not going to say easier to test for, but you can usually see it. So the radon mitigation and mold remediation are two very different things. Oftentimes, we're in the same place, though. We're in a crawl space doing radon mitigation. It's not uncommon to find mold in crawl spaces. But mold is typically moisture driven and radon is geology driven. So mold is everywhere. We're breathing it right now. Same with radon. But with radon being geology driven, it's so home specific. The only way to know for sure is to test.
Right on. So, and it's not, I'd imagine it's fairly inexpensive to test.
Yep. So we use 48-hour CRM monitors, continuous radon monitors. They're electronic. We plug them into the wall. That's $85.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple.
And remind me, do you want to pretty much keep stuff as closed as possible when you're running that test?
Yep. Good question. So we're trying to replicate wintertime conditions, not because we want to see a high test, but because in the wintertime is when we typically see highest levels. So we're trying to get as close to that as possible, whether it's a pre-test or after we've installed the system and we're verifying its effectiveness. We want to make sure that we're testing for wintertime conditions.
Yeah.
When it's cold outside, you have all the doors and windows closed.
Okay. And there's not really a type of house, whether it's like slab on grade, you're saying crawl space, basement, any of that. It can apply to any of those.
Yep. I typically see higher levels on crawl space just because if there is no vapor barrier, it's a direct path to soil. Whereas in a basement or a slab on grade situation, there's a concrete barrier between you and the soil, but it varies. It builds up. It's a time and amount of exposure thing. So if we're not getting a lot of fresh air exchange, it's going to build up in the home.
Okay. And remind me now, you came on as a tech. Now, do you have part ownership in the company?
Yes. So when we rebranded to Bozeman Radon and Mold, my title, I'm co-founder now of Bozeman Radon and Mold. So initially I was a tech. I was full install. And now as we've grown, I've transitioned more into the operations side of things, a lot of sales, but also crew management, hiring, training, diagnostics, and system design on some larger, more complex projects. We've done some state work and some federal work, and I've been heading up a lot of that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool that you had that progression, and Jeff kind of set that up so that you could grow in the company if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good dude. I can't say enough good things about him.
And imagine you guys have more techs now. Is there kind of both options if you just want to be a tech, or if you really want to buy in and get invested, is there those potentials depending on, your commitment and work ethic and all that other stuff?
Yeah, we've got a full ladder from Tech 1 up to Tech 2 up to a Master Tech. We've got a full ladder in place, and it's really up to you on what you want to do. So at the moment, we're running 2 crews of 2. So I've got 2 lead techs and then apprentices under them. It's about a 3-year apprenticeship program. So a little bit faster than you typically see in most trades. But I mean, again, what we do is very important, and getting up to speed quickly is super helpful.
Yeah. And remind me, so before you started doing this, you're a mechanic by trade?
Yes. I'm self-taught in just about everything I do. So I was mechanic. I actually started a handyman business about a year before I met Jeff, which is how I met Jeff. I was having issues with marketing and sales, and I was put in touch with Jeff, and the rest is history now.
And you said you graduated from Gallatin College?
Yes.
Okay. Was that anything to do with auto
It was
mechanic?
aviation.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And then I got hurt, and now I can't pass the medical. So.
Oh, okay. So what kind of pushed you in all these different directions? And yeah.
That's funny. ADHD.
Yeah.
Hyperfocus on random things. I've always been a tinkerer and a builder, a designer. Product design and development's always been something I'm really interested in. The mechanic work I was doing was they weren't a startup at that point, a smaller business here in town called Acela Truck Company.
Okay.
So we were taking old military vehicles and completely rebuilding them and rehabbing them for mines, wildland firefighting trucks, high water flood rescue vehicles. It was a blast, man.
Are they they don't do those mini trucks too, do they, or no?
Not anymore. They do now. Their new product is a Jeep Renegade, I believe. But I've been so busy, I haven't really kept up much.
Yeah, out off of Huffine, kind of by Stone Glacier there. I remember seeing those little trucks sitting out there. Those kind of mini trucks. They're a European truck or something. They look like cab overs with a little tiny bed.
Like a K truck.
Yeah. And I don't know. I didn't know if that was the company you worked with, or that was somebody else.
No, we were building the exact opposite as far as size.
Right on. So these things are big.
Yeah. 46-inch tires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Very big. So 11-foot tall. The opposite of a K truck.
Okay. And you grew up in Three Forks?
Yes.
Okay. So what's it been like being in this county and watching it explode?
I mean, you can sit and be grumpy that all these people are moving here, but I haven't left. And I've always been self-conscious about that. But I've got friends from all over the U.S. that have come and never left for a reason. And they always mention, like, why would you leave? This is so incredible here. It makes sense why people want to come here. And I don't blame them. We're so blessed to be here doing what we're doing and getting to recreate in this environment. You can't put a price on that. I've been fortunate enough to travel a ton, and it just makes me appreciate Montana even more.
Yeah, it makes me think, because I'm not from here. And, of all the different places I've gone and I'm planning to go, I've never been more excited to come back here.
That's the interesting thing is I'm so ready to go home, not because I hate being out and about, but because Montana just feels different.
My fiance just told me this recently. We were traveling and she said, I've never walked faster than when I land in Bozeman and I'm going to my truck. I was like, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about that airport that is stressful at all.
No.
But just when I get back in my truck, yeah.
Yeah. Bozeman Airport, I mean, they're great. They're doing a good job. And gosh, it's been growing for 10 plus years now.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it's funny, you'd get on an airplane and you would see somebody you knew, no matter what. And now that's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
Who am I to tell others they shouldn't be here because I'm a local?
That's my barometer. And it pretty much always happens and it's funny, but I'm like, I'll see at least one person I know, whether it's on the plane I'm on or at the airport. And it's pretty much happened every time. And that's my happy medium of cool. This place isn't so massive. Right. But yeah, I've heard plenty of people say, you know half the people on the plane, and it's obviously just a size thing.
Well, the number of airlines has also changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you couldn't fly direct to New York or Atlanta, and now that's a possibility. And it makes perfect sense. We've got Yellowstone National Park on our back doorstep.
Yeah.
It's no brainer.
And Montana State, there's just, yeah. I mean, my sister found this place because of Montana State, and most of my family is here now.
Yeah. Most of my friends came for school and they haven't left.
Yeah. And you have siblings here or no?
I do. So my little brother is here in town. He's got a welding business. And then my sister actually lives with her husband in just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, about an hour outside of Atlanta.
Okay.
They're trying to get back too.
Yeah. Well, they got that Atlanta 406 flight that comes right here now. So
exactly.
That's probably helpful. You should connect me with your brother if he wants to come on and talk about his business too.
It'd be fun, man. I'm super proud of him. He took a leap and he's doing great. Yeah.
Anything else that we should know about radon or what you're doing now? Because then at some point I'll spit into, one of the reasons we're talking now too.
I mean, you and Jeff covered a lot on radon. Again, I'm more the technical side of things. I guess, do you have questions about radon? Have you had your home tested?
I haven't.
You haven't?
Shame on me.
So we should come deploy test.
Yeah.
Let me know. Do you have basement, crawl space, slab on grade?
Slab on grade.
Okay. Levels are typically lower in the summertime. It's nice out. All your doors and windows are open.
Yeah, and our windows are open from like as early as possible to as late as possible.
Yep.
Yep.
I've been having a tough time deploying tests lately because people I'm sorry, but I can't close my windows.
Yeah.
And I completely get that. We'll come back in the fall and deploy a test when.
Can you do a test when people are out of town too? So
you
can just throw stuff up and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually prefer that.
Yeah.
In a sense. I mean, I tell people live your life like normal, but if you're letting the dog out the back door, just shut it.
Yeah.
Open it up when he comes back and then close it. Because we're trying to replicate those colder wintertime conditions when you're closed up more. And there's 1,001 variables with this, but that's a pretty easy one to control. So it's important.
Yeah. I was living in an apartment. This would have been, I don't know, like 10 years ago in upstate New York. And there was a radon system in there. And I was like, man, what is this? Like, I don't even know if this is like, there was a tag on it and it kind of explained what the system was. And it looked, I think it was like a 4 or 5 inch PVC pipe maybe that came up through the slab. But I'm like, I don't know what this is. And it's kind of a foreign thing unless you've heard about it. Before we keep rolling with today's episodes, I want to tell you about someone who changed how we show up as a business. When clients land on our website, we hear the same thing over and over. It just feels right. Amy of Unbridled Form asked us questions we'd never thought to ask ourselves, helped us figure out the deeper identity underneath our services, and translated that into a brand world we're genuinely proud of. Our ongoing partnership is easily one of the best investments we've made. Learn more at unbridledform.com. Now back to the show.
One of the things with having a bigger crew now, it's opened me up to start down the education, content creation with our podcast and advocacy to the state. Montana is very cowboy when it comes to radon. So a lot of people, I mean, the DEQ is doing their best to educate, but it's not reaching people as early as it probably should. A lot of people don't hear about radon until they start the home buying process. And you should know about it sooner than that. So my goal, there's so much technical information. My goal has always been to be that translator, getting the information in the hands of people that need it in a manner that allows them to make the best possible decision based on their home.
Yeah, when you say they're a cowboy when it comes to that, as someone who grew up on a farm, they're Montana's cowboy when it comes to almost everything.
Just about everything.
And there's such a beauty and a freedom in that I think probably myself and you don't want to ever lose. There are times when it's, it becomes dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really tough line to balance because you don't want all kinds of regulation. So, then we're policed on everything and you don't feel like you have much freedom, but some of it's sketchy. And I've seen it, if you're in the construction industry, like some of it is sketchy. Like you don't want somebody to fall off a 5-story building and never come home.
Right.
But, as someone who grew up on a farm, we would just cowboy things. You're not going to go buy a harness. You're going to do what you need to do. But then you start to think and get a little bit older and you're like, yeah, I got a family to come home to and that person doesn't. It's a really hard thing to know, like when to step in. But like, I don't think anyone's asking for more regulation, but I think everyone's asking for their family to be safe and come home every day.
Yeah, I don't necessarily wish for more regulation. Montana does not require mitigators to be NRPP certified, which is the National Radon Proficiency Program. But once we got our certifications, and we got them very early on, but once we got those, the floodgates opened. We've worked with the DEQ quite a bit, and they also don't want more regulation. But there is something to be said for standardization because what we're doing is tied to health. It's actively saving lives. Radon is the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. People who are perfectly active and healthy and get lung cancer, there's a good chance, it's not a guarantee, but there's a chance that it was from radon, which is a very manageable and avoidable situation in the first place.
Yeah. And I mean, that's common. It's like you can just speculate on how somebody got that, but there's so many people that get that say, oh man, I never smoked. I never did any of this stuff. Yeah. But if you're living essentially in that pot of radon, like, yeah, I'd imagine that can be detrimental to your health in more ways than you even know.
Yeah, we did a home up backside of the Bridgers, kind of the Brackett Creek area, and both mom and daughter had lung cancer under 50.
Wow.
And they're active, healthy, they're living in the mountains, they're always out hiking, snowshoeing. All the doctors were confused, and their home tested over 500. What
does that number mean in relevance to?
Good question. So we're measuring, the unit of measure is known as picocuries per liter, and that's measuring the number of radioactive disintegrations per minute. So the EPA states levels of 4 or less. So that 4 picocuries per liter is about 9 disintegrations per minute. They were testing at a 500. Ideally, we get you under 2. That's always the goal. If you remember back to, I'm going to get technical for a minute.
Sure.
If you remember back to high school physics class or chemistry, the periodic table of elements, radon is actually on the periodic table. And it's a noble gas, which means it doesn't chemically interact with other things around it. But it's radioactive, so there's a radioactive decay process. It comes from the uranium in the soil all around us. And eventually, as uranium decays, you get radon, and that radon also decays. And what's happening is, again, high school physics class, you've got 2 protons and 2 neutrons in the center of that atom that get ejected at about 5% the speed of light. So we're talking about subatomic shrapnel. If you inhale that radon and it gets trapped in your lungs and that disintegration occurs, it can damage the DNA in your lung cells. That DNA is a blueprint for the cell, for reproduction and how it operates. If you've ever built an IKEA bookshelf without an instruction manual, the odds that you screw something up are probably 50-50. if you get damaged cell DNA, your body's very good at catching that and preventing it, but over enough time and enough amount of exposure, you can see mutations, which is then where we see the lung cancer show up.
Damn, that's wild.
It's so wild.
Yeah. See, and I'll say this, someone who's completely guilty, because I already sat here with Jeff. I'm friends with Jeff. I talk to him all the time. I heard him tell me a lot of this stuff. I still haven't had my place tested. So even probably what you're saying, it's the same things over and over again until, you hear it enough times. And I don't know why it's a human thing. And I'm saying this as somebody who's being very human and hasn't had our place tested.
Well, it's human nature to think, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I'm never home. Well, you spend 8 hours a night there sleeping. If you sleep in the basement, it's something you should consider. And even if you don't sleep in the basement or you don't spend time in your crawl space, your HVAC ducts run through there. And if those leak, you're just picking up radon and pumping it through the home. And it's not only radon, because it's radioactively decaying. So there's other elements in that chain, one of them eventually being lead, which is much more stable. There's other elements that are radioactively decaying, and they'll attach to things like dust, lint, pet dander, hair. That's all airborne in your environment, and you're inhaling that. It's going to get stuck in your lungs, and it could potentially cause a problem.
Well, I'm already grateful we're sitting down again, because now you got me thinking, and I'm getting married soon, so I need to even prioritize beyond just my own health.
Yes.
Not that you should need to get married to do that, but whatever gets us moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it's important. There's a lot of misconceptions about radon, and it's a government conspiracy or a money grab. And my question is just, what are you comfortable with? If your kids are sleeping in the basement, this isn't an uncommon situation. I'll have a gal call panicked, her kids sleep in the basement and they're home tested at 6. 6 is a very manageable number. Whether it's 6 or 500, the mitigation process really doesn't change. We're just managing airflow and pressure differences. And I tell people it is simple work. It's hard work. It's very labor intensive, but radon is very manageable, and it's one of the most well understood and studied indoor air quality issues that we have. So,
and tell me again, as I'm sure Jeff already did, what exactly are you guys doing to mitigate?
So it kind of depends on the home. If you have a crawl space, let me back up. Your home typically operates under negative pressure, meaning outside air wants to come in. So if you have a crawl space or basement, slab on grade, especially during the wintertime, when you're heating the home, that hot air rises. Air needs to come in to make up that empty space. Your home doesn't care where that air comes from. So if it comes from under the slab or in the soil in the crawl space, that could have radon in it, and it's going to get sucked up into the home. And we're talking about very small pressure differences. So our job is to create a negative pressure that's greater than what the home is creating. We're not removing air from the home. That would be inefficient. You're paying to heat and cool that. We're just creating a pressure difference to prevent the radon from ever getting sucked in the first place. So if you have a crawl space, we deploy a vapor barrier. It's kind of like a shower curtain. Seal the edges, pull air from underneath. If you have a basement or a slab on grade, we're coring a hole in the concrete and applying active suction to that hole. And then we're routing that up and out of the house.
So when you're doing the vapor barrier, you're not putting any type of system to pull that out of there?
We are.
Okay.
Yes. So that would be submembrane depressurization is what we would call it. So we're running a perforated collection pipe under that vapor barrier. And then you'll have little footing walls in the crawl space that divides it up into sections. And we'll jump over those into each section of the crawl space to pull air from the entire thing. I've never had a home with a crawl space come back high after a system has been properly installed. We can control all the variables. There's a perimeter seal of that liner, and we're just pulling air from underneath it.
And remind me, you'll probably know this better than me coming from the HVAC world, and maybe this is only commercial buildings, but maybe they do this with residential, but don't they usually pressure test the building at some point
Yeah. So like a blower door test.
Mm.
And we've gotten really good at building houses especially in this area. The energy efficiency push, we've gotten really good at building tighter homes. And that can lead to problems as long as they're not addressed. So the lack of outdoor air coming in to dilute radon can potentially lead to higher radon. It can also lead to higher humidity, which is a breeding ground for mold.
Yeah. With every solution comes a new problem.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, at least a picture in my mind of thinking of the suction, and it's just pulling everything
Mm-hmm.
from, from the earth up into the house.
We call it a glorified shop vac.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah. And then this ventilation system is essentially taking that suction and taking it straight out of the house without it passing through the living areas.
Yep. Again, we're not removing air from inside the home. We're preventing that radon from ever coming in the first place. Your home is still operating under a negative pressure and trying to draw air in, but we're drawing that soil gas in before it gets sucked up into the house. And then per NRPP and the other standards that we're required to maintain, we need to go up through the roof with that. The fan is typically in the attic, and then the pipe goes up through the roof just like a plumbing stack and blows out the top.
Cool. And you said this was a labor-intensive job, and you've got a cast on your hand. So you told me a little bit, but tell me again how you did that.
I was drilling a hole, big 3.5-inch hole, and hit a nail. Obviously, you can't see that down in the wood, and the drill twisted around. And one of my other lead techs just tried to break his hand drilling through concrete, found a piece of rebar. So,
got to watch those drills to catch something.
And they go.
And those new, like those power tools, they bite.
The amount of torque, you can get in a battery operated hand drill is just amazing to me.
Yeah, and I think you can correct me, but you guys use Milwaukee stuff?
Yes.
I don't know how often you've done this in your more mechanical career, but I've broken like too many studs just changing tires.
Oh yeah.
And now the new Milwaukee's, you can set the torque settings, and it's like I found that to be very valuable.
It's very helpful. I can say we were torquing lug nuts on the big trucks to 600 foot-pounds. The big 1/2-inch Milwaukee Impact.
Yeah,
we'll get it tighter than that.
That's what I have. Yeah, and then you go to take them off of the bar, and you're like, whoa,
it's not moving. Yeah, you'd zip them down, and you'd throw the 4-foot-long torque wrench on there and put your body weight on it, and it wouldn't budge, and it would click. So then you'd have to back it off.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because then you got to change studs out.
Basically restart.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about this podcast that you're starting. Do you have, a name that you're going to call it? What's it going to operate, and what are you doing with that? And then we can explain why we're talking about that too.
Yeah, so we've actually recorded a couple episodes already. It's the Bozeman Builder Science Podcast. And really the goal is to, again, be that translator from technical to the average homeowner, but also realtors, contractors. There's information coming out every day that is necessary and important. I just want to make sure people have the best information available to make the best decision they can for their home or their family's health.
Yeah. So tell me what's kind of spurred this idea. It seems like you're kind of hinting towards it to educate people, and so people are more informed about stuff they're doing. And how's the first few episodes gone? And then literally ask me any and every question you have about it, and I'll give you my experience and any expertise I've might have acquired over the course of a couple hundred episodes.
Yeah, no, you're crushing it, man. It's been fun to watch. So the more I'm in this industry, it's not that I get simple questions. Simple questions make sense. If you don't know, you don't know. But I consistently get the same questions. And again, these are people, they've owned their home for 20 years. Radon or mold should have come up at some point, and they were never told about it. They never got the information required. Or we've been doing a building science group with James from Red Point Home Inspections, and similar thing. I'll get questions from contractors. And again, it's not that they aren't doing their due diligence and trying to research this stuff. It's just not common information. And so seeing a need for that, the goal has been to try and fill that gap and be that translator.
Yeah. So you've done a couple episodes now. Do you have an idea of how many, and I'm going to try to answer the questions you haven't asked me yet by asking. Do you have an idea of how many episodes you want to do? One a week, one a month, any?
It's probably going to be one a week.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with the crew that we have now, I have more time to actually dive into that.
Yeah.
I'm most curious about your workflow and how you make time for it, because it is so much work, and I have a lot of respect for it. We've already got 4 episodes recorded. I'm in the process of editing. I don't want to just release a single episode and then just slowly do one after the next. I would like to start with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's not the first episode that people get the most out of. It's the second or third or even the fourth.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And like, this is all going to like parallel pretty much all like a lot of, business advice on like, know your customer, know your audience. I'll tell you what I did, and then you can ask me any questions about that. But for whatever reason, I've been doing the podcast once a week with my buddy Kyle, and it was totally a passion project for fun, and it still is, and like it pretty much still is all it is. But so the commitment was, and I'd heard this enough times from podcasts that I listened to, that the consistency of releasing, and it's, if you, kind of TV shows in a lot of senses aren't as common as they used to be. But if your favorite TV show is going to have a new episode every Sunday, and that's like, there's quite a few podcasts that have done that. They'll release. So I just picked, when me and Kyle were doing it, every Sunday, 6 a.m., we'd release an episode. And we kind of figured this out as we went, but we could do 2 or 3 in a week recording. We're like, we have a 3-week runway now, where if we're traveling and, to coordinate our schedules and a guest schedule, that becomes complicated with 3 people. So that would be my first thing, is put enough kind of in a bank so that you're not trying to live your life and work and, do your radon thing, have your family life, and then you're scrambling. When I decided to start doing Mountain Mule, I recorded a dozen before I released any. And then I just started putting them out on that cadence. For whatever reason, I said, well, I'm going to do 2 a week. And I have been doing that for today, as we record this episode, 130 comes out. So whatever half of that is how many weeks? 65 weeks. And it's a lot. Like that's a commitment. So having those dozen, that's got me 6 weeks, and then it's still staying consistent within that. So generally I'm still trying to always record 2 a week. Sometimes I'll do 4 a week. I'll do 4 this week.
Wow.
I was almost not going to do any next week because I'm getting married next week, but I've got some family members and friends coming in to town that I don't see a lot. And some of them I would really love to sit down and record some of this. When this started, it was really just a way to sort of have these awesome conversations with friends and family members that could maybe be shown to their grandkids someday. And it's kind of a way, I don't know about you, but I think a lot about, I really didn't know my grandparents. They all passed away before I was born, when I was very young. And if I could sit down and listen to a recorded conversation with them, how cool would that be? So that's sort of my long-term thought of how cool this could be. And then that evolved into the Mountain Mule thing. But that would probably be my first big thing of advice, is put a bunch there so that so you just don't feel like you become a slave to it.
No, I like that a lot. And I think I kind of arrived at that organically. I'm very blessed. I have all my grandparents still, and I have a lot of recorded conversations with them. Yeah. So my next goal is to try and get my dad to sit down. Yeah. I want to get a couple good 2-hour conversations with my dad. Yeah. And my mom. Yeah, my sisters still haven't done it, either of them. My mother and my brother have. And some people won't, but that's, if they do in time, awesome. And if they don't, what are you going to do? What else? Just literally spitball any questions about it, and I can kind of tell you what I do and
how I do anything.
Yeah. I really enjoy the long form content.
Hmm.
Just having a conversation. There's no pressure. I get the most out of it. Usually that follow-up question, you can get a 10-minute answer where it was originally 30 seconds. How much editing do you actually do on the back end? How much do you cut up and put different topics together?
Almost none.
Really?
Uh, so like this is just very free flow, and that like that's what I always enjoyed, and but I think it's kind of about knowing what you want it to be. Like when we started recording, the reason I asked you to talk about Bozeman Radon and what it is, if the title says Bozeman Radon, like people might say, "Oh, I wonder what that company is or
Right.
what radon is." And because it's somewhat business focused, but it's not just business. It's kind of anyone doing something worth talking about in my mind in this community. That doesn't have to be a business owner. It could be a politician. It could be somebody
Mm-hmm.
that's just doing something with a nonprofit. But what I've had to learn in time is stay on topic in the beginning and at least put that information there. So if someone just wants to know what radon is or what Bozeman radon is, that's right there in the beginning. Then I let it pretty much go anywhere in my what I always hope is to have more of a connection to the people behind the business and kind of the story behind what's going on. And I think to yours, if you're, it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve, but it sounds like education. So
Yeah.
I think probably trying to like keep people somewhat on track in the beginning. And then it's, do people want to listen to, a 2 or 3 hour conversation? Do you just want 20 minutes of here's what it is? Cause there could even be a thing where you do like a short form, this is what the business is. And then like a long form, get to know the owner more or I guess that's kind of up to you. And like you'll probably figure it out in time too.
Yeah. Oh, I just had we work with a third party restoration consultant for all of our third party mold and clearance testing for mold. And I had him on a couple weeks ago and we talked for 3.5 hours.
Mm.
I just hit record and we just started going and I loved it. I learned so much and I want to get that into the hands of people, but we bounced around way more than I thought we would.
Yeah.
And so trying to almost put like subjects together versus having to wait 20 more minutes before you get the answer to the question that is related to 20 minutes previous. That's where I've been trying to figure out.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, I can only answer like, I am selfishly just, putting things out that I would want to know because I'm just want to know about the person. I don't really care like if it takes 30 minutes, but I'd imagine people that don't have the patience for that wouldn't listen to this podcast anyway. And they've gone all over the place. I've had ones go only 20 minutes and they were pretty quick in the beginning if you go back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hadn't developed as much of a muscle as to ask deeper questions and to try to pull a little more of the person out. But that was just a learning curve.
Yeah.
And it was just the idea and the way I associated it with Mountain Mule was, what's your business? How can we connect clients to who you are and what you're doing? And then it's kind of bounced around a little bit since then.
Yeah, it's challenging. My brain goes blank the second I sit down in front of a microphone. And I'm nowhere near what you have done, but in 4 episodes now, my brain goes blank. But I'm not here to talk. I want to know what they have to know or what they have to provide for us. And the follow-up questions, again, you can get a 10-minute answer after a 5-second answer if you just wait and ask the right questions. How has your communication skills evolved and maybe improved with having done this podcast?
I think just the ability to listen has gotten better. I was just talking with the last episode, which will be the episode that airs before this. Me and the woman, she had she's a writer and has a writing background, and we were talking about this exact thing. But I don't know, it's the weird reps you get that you don't know you're getting. And then it's kind of if you worked out for like however long for a couple of years and never looked at the mirror, and then one day you look at me and be like, whoa, I actually look a lot different. And like, I think you just kind of don't notice it when it's happening. But it was totally happening kind of unconsciously
Have you seen that positively impact your business?
my whole life
Wow.
because I could like, there's essentially anywhere I go or anyone I meet, I know there's an interesting person and an interesting conversation in there. So that's just cool.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it, man. There's nothing I love more than using the podcast as an excuse to have a conversation with somebody who's
Yeah.
always too busy.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I run into them, it's at the gas station or we're on a job and we've got 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The excuse to be able to just sit down and jam on something, it's hard to put a price on that. I enjoy it.
And I say it very transparently in the email I'll send out to someone. It's either before they when I kind of just invite them to do it or when they do, but I say, look, this is a business based community focused podcast, but it's really just an excuse to get to know the person better, and that's really what it is. It's a cool kind of doorway. Hey, you got a business. Hey, you're doing something cool. Let's go talk about it. Some people don't want to talk about it. And sometimes as business owners or people doing anything, we're just humble or reserved or quiet, but it's just cool to hear that like there's a person and how their mind works. And I don't know, it's just I don't know, it's like a muscle that grows as you keep working it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Again, my brain still goes blank when I sit down in front of a microphone, but two questions in, like, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to talk to people.
When you say it goes blank, like, how do you mean, or what do you think?
Oh, it literally goes blank. I sit down and I had a list of questions for you. And I try not to rely on a list of questions because, again, I want the conversation to flow. And the more it flows, the more I learn that I wouldn't have necessarily expected to get. So I try and have a list of questions just as a potential fallback if need be. But more often than not, I ask the first two and then we're just off to the races.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find it because I had a list that I used. I mean, kind of because of this reason, because it's like, do I stay on track? There's some ones that I think are cool to know. Where did the name come from? What's your relationship to
Mm-hmm.
Montana? Wanting it to be a Montana focused podcast and community focused podcast. Those questions were helpful, and there was a time when I used them more. But it was weird as I kept doing this, I'd almost go have a 45-minute conversation or an hour plus and look back and look at all the questions and think, man, we kind of indirectly answered all those. So I didn't even kind of think I was asking any of these questions, but I don't know. I think that's the same muscle that just keeps, you know,
Yeah, it happens organically. And the more organically it happens, obviously, the better it sounds. I tend to learn more from those non-structured kind of podcasts,
yeah,
but it is interesting to watch how, like you said, you look at your list after the fact and like, dang, I answered 99% of these or
yeah,
got answers to them without this rigid structure.
yeah. I'm looking at these now. And as it says, no need to prepare, just to preview the conversation flow. Quick intro, who you are, what you do, what's the story behind how the business got started, what's something most people don't realize about what you do day to day, what brought you to Montana, how's being in Montana influence your work or lifestyle. For someone who's never worked with you, what can they expect? Who's your typical client? What sets your approach apart?
I do like starting with like an on-topic question.
Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense to me, and it wasn't something I'd considered before. That's pretty smart.
Yeah. And it is, I don't know, it's weird. And this is like, I know I do this more now, but I don't do it knowingly. It's kind of automatic. You might say something about, about radon or something. We might go down a 15-minute track, and then I'll kind of think, like, my brain almost goes like, okay, so, back to that thing. And it's a weird dance because sometimes I like just want to shut up and let people tell their cool story. And then sometimes I'll try to pull it back. But people have asked me that. They're like, oh man, I know I rambled. How much of that are you going to edit out? I'm like, that's how it's going. So that saves a lot of time. So that's not a helpful answer for workflow because it's pretty minimal.
Well, I mean, noted.
Yeah.
I've like I said, that conversation I had with Mike, 3.5 hours, we jumped around so much. Had I started with kind of an on topic sort of thing, I think it would have been perfectly fine. And I am going to upload the full raw recording, but I do want to split it because Mike has done national disaster relief for hurricanes. We talked about that for 45 minutes. But then in the middle of that, we also talked about fire restoration and smoke damage. Like those kind of don't fit together. So being able to have some kind of a structure to it, I'm going to have to do in the post edit. And that's what I've been working on. But I am going to release the full one because.
Well, I'll tell you something funny that you're making me think now, because when I started doing the Mountain Mule podcast, I was more dead set on it being business focused. And there were several reasons. What a great way to network with the community, to build relationships with other businesses, and what a great way to be more resourceful to our clients because they come here from out of town.
Mm-hmm.
We know all these cool businesses doing this. We can hook them up. We're giving them more business. We're making each other look good. And it almost seemed uncomfortable to have it be a really long form story about this person's life. Like it didn't fit. So what I was trying to do was do the Mountain Mule podcast about your business, and then do a long form one on the Kyle and Tim podcast. So there's two, and it was so clunky because it was let's have one interview and then then have another interview, and I realized that was such a weird thing to do. We're going to do two separate interviews, and then eventually these just became what I always wanted it to be anyway. But it took a while. It almost makes me think though, if you could cut a short one that's really kind of trade and more technically specific, and then have a maybe like you release the short part on Monday, and on Thursday you release the full. Want to learn more about Mike? Here's the
like that.
Which that's just an idea too.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of how much time you're spending editing. But you could also like really have a list of things, keep them on track right away, and then let it go off to the races. But I found most of the gold and the cool stuff is when it just goes. Like the more I was trying to control the outcome, the worse it was getting.
Yeah. Again, that follow-up question or just 5 seconds of silence, you get so much good information from somebody after that second question. Like Mike would, my most recent recording, he would ramble for 20 minutes on it, and you just get so much solid information out of him. In the world, like now modern day world, everything is so short and quick, and they say everybody's attention span is so short. So with your short form content, what does that process look like for you?
Are you talking like social media stuff?
Social media.
That usually is just trying to find something that was really interesting. That might, it's a weird because, like this is more the advertising and business part, but if there's something really interesting in a conversation or a topic, might, actually make people interested about what you guys are talking about. So, that could be anything from just a cool, like, concept in the trade world that people don't know about, whether this is somebody buying a home or somebody renovating a home. So that's anything and everything. A lot of the software generates clips automatically. Some are good, some aren't.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
You used any of the auto-generated stuff?
Some of it, but it's like I'll usually end up making some edits to it anyway. But it's I don't know, just something cool where I'll remember. Sometimes there's some funny moments, but the best moments are always those just random ones where
in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah. That's the other half of the reason I don't edit a lot of it, and it's just kind of funny. But if there's an interruption or something happens, and I'm like, that was just funny too, and it's you kind of like I think it makes you feel like you're really part of the actual situation and not just seeing the highlight reels.
Yeah, we were halfway into my most recent recording, and Mike just stood up and walked to the bathroom. Like, I guess we're taking a bathroom break.
Yeah.
Just right in the middle of a conversation.
And those I'll cut out
sometimes,
but it was funny. I was recording with a woman in here, and some guys were in the shop, and I actually insulated these walls. This was before then, and they were talking so loud. I'm like, hang on 1 second. I like open the door. I'm like, hey guys, I'm recording. And they're like, oh, sorry. There's a sign on the door that says recording.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I'll just edit that part out. And I forgot to. And then I was just laughing. I was like, you know what? That's actually funny.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it in there. But that's, so it could be almost like, man, did he mean to not edit that out? But I think it's funny. And it makes me wonder now, as someone who listens to plenty of podcasts, man, how much of the good stuff is getting edited out?
Yeah. I have very little desire to do a lot of editing. Not only does it take so much time, but also it removes some of that authenticity.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that listen to podcasts purely because of the authenticity there and the knowledge that can be gained. And if you edit all of that out, what are you left with?
Yeah. And I mean, for someone who's going to either work with businesses as a business owner, or someone who's just a consumer that's going to hire these businesses, when you hear that person sit down for a few hours, you will grow an appreciation for who they are. And you'll generally say, oh man, this guy is like any other human. He wants to make a good living, and there's a cool reason he got into this. And I want that guy to come work on my property or do work for me. I want to, support him and his family. And I think that's so much cooler than a 30-second kind of commercial.
Yeah, one of the weird aspects about this business, not weird, but like what a lot of people would be uncomfortable with is going into other people's homes. And I'm here to educate. That's the goal. Help you make a decision that you're comfortable with. And once you can kind of get over that, life is a lot easier. And I've noticed that with the podcast too. Again, the goal is to help educate. So if I can help them get the right information, that's worth it to me. I'm willing to look a little stupid in the meantime.
Yeah. Remind me after, I'll show you my friend Jim's his Instagram page. He did the podcast a while back, and he essentially does farm tours, but he does so many short videos, and he really does a really good job with them of educating people about animals, about farm life, about different stuff. And I think everyone right now in the world is just so drawn to Montana, drawn to the outdoors, to the animal, and that kind of simpler life with technology. He has gained a great following from him because he's genuinely just educating people. It's very cool. And that's just an idea too. And a lot of his stuff is short form. We had a couple hour conversation. That's the only one I've done on here that was via Zoom. But he's on the other side of the country, and I grew up with him, and I was like, this is I worked for him when I was younger, and he's someone who's a friend. So that was cool. But I think the education aspect is huge when you're just, informing people of stuff.
Yeah, it's so necessary, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. And if you didn't learn it in high school or college, and you didn't take a home buying course, I always recommend people do that because you'll get this information. But, some people don't have the time, or regardless of the reason, that education, it's so necessary. And the long form content, I personally get so much education on random topics. I mean, everybody listens to Joe Rogan or Theo Vaughn, those are just comedian podcasts, but there's so much out there that you wouldn't expect to enjoy learning about. And that's been my favorite thing about it. Because I also learn in our podcast. My goal is to learn right alongside the audience.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's why I'm asking these questions.
And then you get the trust when you hear the person repeatedly enough, and that's where I think the value is. It's a long-term thing because it takes a long time to build trust. But when people hear you over a long period of time, they'll start to see the consistency in who you are and what your intentions are. In a 30-second clip, you can portray anything in 30 seconds if you're a good enough actor. But over the hours and hours of it, they're going to, and I think that happens as someone who listens to podcasts, is you start to trust because you see the bigger picture of who the person is. Yeah,
I didn't think about that. That's a really good way of explaining that. It's It's important to be authentic, because who are we if we don't have our authenticity?
Yeah.
And I think that's why people are so drawn to the long form content stuff, because you're right, it builds that trust and that kind of third party relationship in a sense. Again, I'm asking these questions because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I trust this individual to give me good information. I've worked with them in the past. Hopefully that helps you out as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's been weird. Like, it's been weird, and I don't know what way to go with this, but there's some people I've talked to for hours, and I'm like, man, now I'm not sure about that person. And there's this question, you know, do I publish that? Am I endorsing that? And then it's kind of, well, I think if anyone takes the time to listen to this, they can make their own judgment.
Yeah.
And it's a weird position to be in. You know, who am I to decide right and wrong? Maybe that didn't resonate with me, and maybe it will with other people. So that's been a different line to toe. And I, you know, for the most part, just try to put it out there in the world and let the world decide. But sometimes you do have to be like, all right, this is crossing a line or a boundary, and that's a weird situation I didn't think I'd be in until I found myself in it.
Yeah, I haven't considered that till now. So one more thing to worry about, I guess.
Yeah, and you like all I'll say is if you already have a feeling beforehand or something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. Like if something seems weird, and that's a whole nother thing. But it seems like my experience has been, if the only reason the person wants to do this podcast is to promote their business and, you know, hopefully, you know, gain some more business or something, that's usually the wrong guest for this podcast. They might be the right guest for a different podcast. If somebody wants to come on here because they're doing something valuable and they want to share that value and see what they might learn, like those are always the best ones. But it's kind of the concept of, you know, what could I contribute to this podcast and this community versus what could I get from it?
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. I was going to ask how you went about going and getting guests.
It's like 95%. Okay, let's say it's like 60% referrals from guests. So that's kind of just a never ending thing. But then I will just reach out to businesses that I'm genuinely curious about. Like, that is so interesting. I'm so curious what that person does. I admire the way they do what they do. I would love to hear, you know, how is that person made? Like what, you know, who influenced them and what went into their thinking that, you know, creates this end result in a mix of that. Not that and some people will, you know, will be interested, and you could even hear it in that wording as I'm publicly giving out the secret to how to word it. But, you know, I think it could be a great fit because I want to share this with the community, and I think it could be very helpful for, you know, for anyone in Montana or anyone in the audience versus like, hey, I'd really like to come promote my business. And I'd like to do it at this time because I'm doing this thing. And like, then you can just kind of hear the undertone.
Yeah.
Of
there's an alternative desire, goal there rather than just the authentic side of things.
Yeah. And you don't like think of that till it happens. And then you realize, oh, there's a decent following. This has an impact. And then there's always people that are like, how could I gain from that situation? So it's, I don't know, life, such is life. You keep learning.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot of fun with ours. And again, with the goal being education, the guests that we've had, the second I bring that up and mention that, they just get so fired up because they're like, man, I've been telling people this for 30 years, but I haven't had the audience or the opportunity to actually have people hear me. And so the goal there is be that translator, be that middleman that gets people in front of the people that they need to be in front of.
Yeah. I think even keeping that in mind when you're doing it will be so helpful because there can be a massive gap between a lot of construction terminology to the general homeowner. And I spent years in construction, and there's a whole new vocabulary, and you learn it and you pick it up and you think everyone knows this, but why would you? There's no reason to. There's too many things to remember already. But that can be so valuable, and to be that person that's bridging those two things.
And that's the goal, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but this Like getting a tour from you, it's helpful. So thank you for having us out
Yeah.
to do this, because it'll be helpful. Again, the goal is to, with business, help save 1 million lives.
Mhm.
The podcast will directly assist with that.
Yeah. And that's cool is, you can it can catch on to the right thing and the right amount of people see it. And then you can kind of accelerate information.
Yeah. The more avenues of education that we can find, the better. We're in community events all the time, but there's not the engagement that I'm always hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
My kind of hope with the podcast is it's there for when you are ready to engage with it. Because now I'm not asking you at 7 p.m. after you had a long day at work. I'm not bombarding you with questions about your home. That podcast hopefully will be that kind of time capsule that you can go back to or get into when you have the time.
Yeah. And then I think another thing that's useful, and I just do it with numbers, is I always put the number of the episode, and it indexes everything. So you can just say, go to like number 27, number 38. But Spotify, and I know some people listen on Apple too, and essentially everything that goes on Spotify will go on Apple if you have it set up right. But it's just an index for numbers, so you can tell them exactly what episode, and it just sort of keeps like it's such a clean index. So if you really think about how you put them out, some people do seasons and stuff, to each their own. To me, it seems weird because for me, this is a never-ending thing. But I could say if you go all the way back to episode 1, that's crazy because that was that was when I started. And if you go to episode 130, you can see the evolution of 130 episodes. But for reference, and I think for people to even be able to find it and bookmark that, and you say, hey, check out, episode 25, that's with this electrician. Like that's the one you need. And the cool thing I think of is they're there forever. As long as you pay your like $10 fee or $20 fee for the Spotify creators thing, they're there forever. So someone might not need that for the next couple of years. And even as a business owner, it's an advertisement and a display of who you are, and it's there. Because you could see this 5 years later and be like, oh my God, that's Ian. I went to high school with him. I'm going to listen to that. And it's there, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And that's, I think the long-term effect of what it could be is very cool.
Yeah. I like that indexing, like being able to go back in that quick reference, because you're right. It is there. So again, that kind of time capsule, you get to see your progression, but also it's easier to just have that information available to the people that need it. And I hadn't considered that, but it'll be nice to be able to say, hey, I'm going to text you a link. Listen to episode 41.
Yeah.
This will perfectly answer all of your questions, hopefully. Then call me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what is a good comparison, but if with some that don't have the numbers, it's kind of you're searching for a title, but you don't know what title they picked. So it could be a weird title. So mine is as simple as number 135, Ian White, Bozeman Radon. So you could search any of those things.
That makes sense.
You're looking for that number. You're either looking for Ian, you're looking for the business. And I'll always and some people aren't necessarily representing a business. And I'll just tell them like, hey, what do you want me to put with this? Because I want it to be like, it's keyworded to you. So if you want to tell your friend like, hey, just search Bozeman Radon or just search my name, you'll find it. And that's, I don't know. And my brain just likes numbers too. So that's why I like the number indexing.
I'm a numbers nerd. This job fits me very well.
Yeah.
The diagnostics and the technical aspect. How important is the video side of things?
I think it just makes it more, more interesting for people that are interested to see who you are. And then, they could not even, what if they don't remember your name or remember my name and the video pulls up? I'm like, wait, I know who that guy is. And it's, it's more colorful. There's more to it. It's preference. When I started doing it, I didn't do video on Spotify. And I don't know, I just seen that that's how a lot of people did it. And I think the thought was, and might have been mine too, is drive the traffic towards YouTube. If you're ever going to monetize this, YouTube is the
That's the
way to do it.
place.
But I've seen more and more people put it on Spotify, and that's where people listen anyway. I think it just improves the engagement. And if you're already doing the video, you might as well. I did this for so long with just a webcam. It's not, you know, at one point the laptop would sit there looking at us, and that's where it was recording, and that worked fine.
If
It's
works,
nothing.
it works.
This is just a nicer camera, and it'll be a couple cameras at some point. But
so you would say it's a necessity. Like if you're going to do it, you should do it with
I think
video.
so. I think because you're already like you have everything there to do it. If you just have a computer, sometimes it's just I don't know if I'm ever listening to a podcast and I know there's video and I hear something crazy or I hear a story being told, I kind of am intrigued to watch. And
That's fair.
And sometimes I'm just interested when I hear somebody talking, who is this guy? And I will look at it and see there's more of a connection, in my opinion, when you see the person. But, a lot of us listen to podcasts when we're working or driving.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point in my life, but I still do it sometimes now, when I would play podcasts on my house TV and they'd just be kind of playing in the background and listening to them. But I always kind of like really enjoyed that. Especially when I was a single guy and I was just at home doing whatever, making dinner, and the podcast is playing on the TV. It was kind of a weird way of surrounding myself with the community I wanted. And these are podcasts that might be inspirational to me or talking about a topic I enjoy. And I, felt like I was sitting in on the conversation with it playing on the TV.
Yeah, I didn't think about putting it on the TV because I always have headphones in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always doing something. And yeah, I listen to more podcasts than I would say I would listen to music.
Yeah.
At least anymore. You get so much more benefit from
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've had to learn more and more, and I'm better about it now of when to turn off and stop listening because there's so much information.
So much information.
Yeah. And I don't know, that's a weird concept to some people and was for me a while, the thought of watching a podcast because you're watching people talk.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, kind of from if you're going to build a good followership and or I don't even know if good is the right term, but a consistent followership, they might, feel like more part of it when they're seeing the video.
Yeah, it's more authentic.
Yeah.
It's easy to hide on a microphone. I mean, it's harder to hide or act on video.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, you can have a 3-hour conversation with somebody and you quickly understand. 3 hours, not necessarily quickly, but
Mm-hmm.
you get a pretty good understanding of that person and their values and kind of their underlying goals.
Yeah. That's a long first date.
It's a long first date.
Yeah. But that's a great sign too. If you go on a first date and you sit there for 3 hours and you're that intrigued, it might tell you something about yourself for the person that's going to tell you there's some sort of connection there.
Yeah. My wife and I went camping for the first date, which is a little different, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we stayed up till 2 a.m. sitting around the campfire just talking.
Yeah.
Like that. I could talk about her all day. I'm super blessed there, but
You're making me think, because I think it was third date with my fiance. We took horses in the backcountry and went camping. And if you want to test yourself or any type of relationship, go camping with somebody.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be out of your element. You're going to be the comfort level is going to be way lower than you're used to. And if, you can see how they act under that pressure and they can see how you act. And that, I don't know, for me, that was a cool thing to see because that's a great way to sometimes see the bad sides of someone.
Yeah, you're making me laugh because I pulled up, we met just inside the town, we met up and she jumped out in big tall boots, overalls, and fishnet stockings. And I was like, we're going camping. What is this gal thinking? And we got to campsite and within 5 minutes she had a fire going. She had a stack of firewood. Okay, she might know what she's doing. And then she had the tent set up and I was just going to sleep in the back of my pickup.
Mm-hmm.
She's working so hard. It impressed me right off the bat. And you're right. It's a quick way to learn a lot about somebody.
Yeah, some of the food that my fiance brought and what she had, I was like, oh, okay, she thought this through and is ready to do this and has the necessities.
You've done this before.
Yeah. Where is your wife from out here?
She's actually from Sealy Lake.
Okay.
So super blessed with that. Her parents still live up there. They're not in Sealy. They're actually over the ridge, opposite side of Sealy, but they back up to national forest property. We
Nice.
got married out in the middle of the field and beautiful backdrop. She likes to joke she came from the woods and that's where she wants to return someday. So
Very cool.
the goal is a cabin in the woods.
Do you guys have kids or no?
No,
Okay.
no, I can't.
Okay.
And so there's potential for possibly adoption in the future, but
Yeah.
at the moment we're just head down doing the thing,
Yeah.
trying to make that dream a reality.
I kept thinking I wanted to say this, and I'm going to go back to this topic because I'm not trying to change it. But the other thing I was thinking with editing audio, when I first started, and I was telling the woman that I just talked with the other day, Emily, that there's an AI setting that will essentially take pauses. It might take some ums out, some likes, anything, any little fillers that we use. I'm probably just as guilty of like as I am of and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I didn't realize till later how much it kind of made the conversation feel weird.
It is night and day difference. It feels like it's an Instagram short instead of a long form conversation, because I've also clicked that setting on and immediately was like, no, it's not uncommon for me to take a breath before I respond. And that's a 5-second pause and that gets cut out. And it feels weird. Like humans use filler words. You can try and cut them out, but that's just normal conversation. So it kind of removes some of that authenticity, like, to bring back that.
Yeah, I was telling, this might have been with Emily or someone else. When I did it with Kyle, it was interesting because I kind of had a little bit of a crutch with him there. If we ever got to an uncomfortable moment, and it's funny when it happens and I laugh, but there's still a level of discomfort. Not to the same extent, but you get to a spot and you'll think, what do I ask next? Or that kind of dead ended, or I just everything's different and it's nothing against anyone, but sometimes you're getting a very closed-ended answer.
Yeah. I'm really bad about that.
It feels like, man, I am like, somebody please throw me a lifesaver because I am trying so hard to keep this conversation above water, and it's kind of just yes or no, and I realize sometimes to sit there in that silence, it's uncomfortable, especially with the guest. You're sitting here, and we're just
quiet,
looking at each other. Yeah. No one's talking. And with me and Kyle, one of us could usually pull something out of our ass to ask or say. And it took me a while, but I learned leaning into that was a whole nother challenge, but a cool experience too.
Going back to what I said earlier, the 10-minute answer after the 5-second pause and the follow-up, like how so, it's hidden behind that discomfort, and you've got to be comfortable sitting there doing it, which thankfully my brain goes blank when I sit down in front of a mic. So my brain goes blank. I don't know what to ask next. And then somebody just starts rambling again. And that's where that information lies. But you got to push through that. And I really struggle with that.
I think it might be a superpower.
I believe that.
When you say that, I just think to myself, that's cool. I realize what will make the conversation the hardest is what am I going to say next? What am I going to ask next? And then I'm not listening at all.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's easy to do because our brains they're just going all the time. But I think that's fine if they're going, but when you can kind of just focus on the person and let it do its thing, that's, in my experience, when most of the gold has happened.
Yeah. Again, that's where the natural human conversation is, because the second it feels weird or off, everybody picks up on that. So knowing that the information you're trying to get is on the other side of that awkward discomfort, it doesn't make it any easier, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. I also struggle with an active listening, because sitting on the other side of the table, you're trying to make sure things go smoothly and they flow well and we're staying on topic. And so it is hard to sit there and listen and then just continue the conversation based on what was said.
Yeah, and I don't know if the headphones help. Sometimes I think they do, that they kind of lock me in. And I'm just, I mean, even from a logical standpoint of not picking up as much sound around, but they might or might not, but it is, I think there's an element to them that works for me. And there's also a part of me that wants there to be no lights and no headphones and no mics. So it feels like we're just shooting the shit. For whatever reason, it always does for me anyway. That I don't think that's as easy for a guest necessarily, because I'm doing this multiple times a week for multiple years. Right. If you're coming in, you haven't done this before, you've done this once or twice, you're gonna think, man, this is recorded. What am I gonna say? Am I gonna ruin my whole life?
Yeah.
And I will tell anyone, look, if you hate it that much, I just won't post it. It's fine. It's not, I'm not going to post it if you absolutely hate it and you think it's going to ruin your life. I have nothing to gain from that. And then I try to encourage them to just get over it and let me post it too, because no one really cares that much.
No.
Nobody cares about ourselves more than ourselves.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. That's a human thing.
I had a baseball coach who would force us to get up in front of the class in the locker room and do a chicken dance, or he just forced us into uncomfortable situations. And I'm so grateful for that. I've had to do a ton of public speaking for past jobs that I've had. And anymore, I don't write a speech. I may have some bullet points I want to cover, but it all came from that confidence of having to do the chicken dance in the locker room or whatever it was. A lot of public speaking, but putting yourself in that weird kind of uncomfortable position, it's a unexplored emotion, I think. Maybe emotion isn't the right word. It's just, I heard somebody the other day say that embarrassment is an underexplored emotion. And I really related to that, because it's easy to freeze up. This is being recorded. You're right. What am I going to say am I going to ruin my life? Just have a conversation. It's more fun that way.
I like that. Embarrassment is an unexplored emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's true. And nobody is less aware of the fact that this is being recorded than me. I almost still to date don't even think about it that much, for better or worse, but I'm at the point where there is multiple hundreds of episodes that I am talking in and a host of or a guest in. And at this point, I know there's an evolution that I've grown as a person, that the version of myself I am most proud of is the current one compared to the one 3 or 4 years ago. And I plan to keep going on that path. So there's going to be lots of mess ups and screw ups and things I wish I didn't say. And there's something valuable about putting that out in the world and, letting everyone know I'm just as human as the next guy. And
it's human nature.
Yeah. Still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's human nature. Who are we to grow as individuals? How do we grow as individuals if you're not willing to put yourself in those positions? And I know our podcast will get better. I have so much fun with it. Like I said, I'm aware in the moment that it's being recorded, because I'm trying to pay attention and make sure that things are going smoothly. But there is something to be said for being on the other side of the table. It's almost like I'm trying to pull information out of you so that the pressure is off me for some reason.
Yeah, I think there's something a lot easier to it. I mean, this is my office. I'm comfortable here. Right. I'm here all the time. I know how it's going to go. When you're a guest, you're walking into a somewhat foreign environment. Who knows how it's going to go? Who knows if I'm secretly an asshole and I kept it hidden for the last 200 episodes and I'm going to take it all out on you and do a hit piece. Like,
it'd be entertaining.
Well, I'll tell you, that's where my mind is more these days. And this, there's just is new challenges that never fail to appear, such as life goes. Now I'm at a point where I might not agree with something a guest is saying, or I might question it. And initially it was, just agree with it. It's okay. I don't understand. And now I want to have some more friendly discourse. I want to push back. And because I realize I might learn more, and I'm probably, or I know I am thinking with my biases, but I won't really get a better explanation if I don't push back. And that reluctance to, to have that confrontation, to not agree with everything or to need more understanding is bothering me more and more these days. So, it's a nudge here and there when there's something, but I found that to be the next evolution of authenticity.
Yeah, and you're probably going to get information you otherwise wouldn't get, like you said. And it's also probably a question that the audience also has.
Yeah.
And it's your job to get that information out.
Yeah, and I think it's valuable for them, valuable for myself, for the guests, for anyone listening.
Mm-hmm. I have another podcast with some friends of mine. We call it exposure therapy because none of us enjoy putting ourselves out there. And so why not? Like our first episode, we recorded in a tent out in the middle of the woods and it was negative 20 degrees. It sucked, but it was a blast. And I asked a buddy if he wanted to come on and do it. And he said, I'll help you do a mock episode. I was like, what do you mean mock episode? He goes, I'll do
when
that
you don't
all
publish.
day. Yeah. But the publishing is the scary part. Like, why not publish it? Why is that terrifying versus just a mock episode? It doesn't change how we approach this.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. That's why I was saying sometimes I have this wish that there wasn't all the mics and the lights and everything, because it makes everyone show up a little bit differently, including myself. And there's some things that you probably shouldn't say. And we're all human, so we all have those things. As close as I can get to that, as to just being a conversation, then I'm pumped. And
have you had any consideration for like lapel mics or like a mobile recording setup?
Yeah, I would love to be outside in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did, sitting behind you, it's not in frame, but there's these chairs. Ultimately, we'll probably go to a setup like that without a table. And we did a photo shoot with those chairs for a little advertisement we're doing for the podcast. So, yeah, I've thought about that because you might forget that's there and it could really change. I don't know. And then there's a part of me that loves the mics because I think it drops me in the zone, but I want to think about the guest as much as myself. So
the lapel mic, I feel audio quality would be a little more challenging. Mm-hmm. How important is the audio quality?
I think it's the most important thing.
I think I agree.
And that for so long, that was my main focus, and it still was kind of shitty in the beginning. It's gotten a lot better because you just learn as you go. But if it's crappy quality, it is hard to listen to, and it doesn't even matter how good of content it is, because if you're hearing hums and clicks, or it's too quiet, or one guest is really quiet and the other one's really loud, it's so irritating that you...
Yeah.
Have you ever watched a TV show or a movie and this has happened on some of my episodes, even some more recently, and I wasn't sure why. Some of them took a while to fix when the audio isn't synced up with the video.
Oh, it's the worst.
That's kind of what that feels.
The worst.
Yeah. That's what this feels like. It's just like, man, I want to listen to this and I'm interested. This bothering the shit out of me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will forgive poor production quality as long as the audio quality is there.
Yeah.
I would argue, 80% of people listen when they're driving or they're working, so they're not watching. The audio quality, it matters.
Yeah.
That was when we started talking about starting our podcast. I told Jeff, like, I'm all for it, but let me handle the audio quality. I used to do some audio work when I was younger. Like, let me go down that path and figure that out, because I don't want crappy audio quality. Yeah,
I didn't spend $1,500 in this building that I don't own to insulate these walls because I wasn't worried about it. And it's funny because sometimes there's a cool effect to a cinematic background noise of a shop within reason.
Mm-hmm.
An overhead door opening and closing isn't the most cinematic thing.
It's a little annoying.
Yeah.
We've got a big plywood table and it's pretty noisy. So I'm trying to figure out something different there.
Yeah. Even some of the coasters will take some of that out.
I didn't think about coasters.
Yeah, just coasters for, the difference in that and that is.
Yeah.
But the concept I understand, and we had a friend on mine and Kyle's podcast. He's a DJ and a musician, and kind of just the closer the mic is, the better, because if you're back here like that, it's trying to pull my voice, and it's also pulling all the, I don't know if you've seen at concert, musicians will almost have the mic in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because they're trying to make sure just their sound is getting recorded and nothing else, or not getting recorded but getting played. That's why I try to keep that rule of thumb of a fist away. Some people you could, turn down the gain a little bit and really put them there, but that's...
I've found you have a much lower voice than I do, but I also have a lower voice, and I struggle getting my audio quality better. As the host, I should have good audio quality, but I definitely struggle with the lower voice.
Yeah, wonder if the headphones would be any benefit just to throw those on and see.
Throw these on.
But you'll at least know where you're at, or where the guest is at. I realized this from an episode not that long ago. I had 2 guests, and I'm going to say it's almost imperative that there's headphones on both the guests. And I realized this when I was just trying to make a few clips for social media podcasts. Almost every question I'm asking, and I was kind of asking questions to both of them or one of them, it's both of them will start talking.
Yeah.
And in a set of headphones, when 2 people are talking, it sounds terrible. It's not as bad in a room, but since you're having all that sound directed to your ears and it's 2 people, you really can't hear anything. It's just a bunch of mush. But I think if they had the headphones on, they would hear what they sound like, which is them talking over each other.
Yeah, I did see one of those episodes, and I was super interested. I was like, how did Tim figure out how to do that with one microphone between the 2 of them? And
and I did that with a few too. And I think the one I'm thinking of is that was with Chase and Chris, their college students who started a VC.
Yep.
That. And I don't know why I didn't just set up the other mic. I think they might have thrown me off, or I forgot they were coming. But pretty much everyone since I given a mic for both of them. I have all the equipment, and they kind of they kept the mic in between them, and they did fine. It was
it worked.
It was comical to an extent too. But I think the headphones for everyone is really valuable, so that people aren't talking over each other.
Yeah, I just feel so, I guess, contained when I have headphones on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's personal preference.
Yeah, Matt was saying, he's like, if you get it right there, you'll get those deep inflections from your voice. And he said, if you want to sound like you have a deeper voice, I'm good. My voice is low enough. But if you really wanted to pull it in right there, could have that. I don't know, whatever you're after. I think as long as it's crisp, as long as it sounds good, that's what you're going for.
What's your favorite episode, Ben?
That's really hard, because
kind
it's
of a side tangent, but
yeah, it's like picking your favorite kid. Definitely one when I was interviewed. I don't know. It's really, there's a lot. I don't know. Man, I'd have to look through, and I'd pull every other one and be like, oh, that one was so much fun.
Yeah.
That one was so much fun. So it's, I don't know. They're all fun. Like, it's crazy. Who is it? Bailey. She's a friend that owns a yoga studio in town, and she's going to do another one in August. And I think it was the second one that I ever released for Mountain Mule. She did one originally with me and Kyle. Then she did that one, and this will be the third one. That's going to be really cool to come full circle and have a conversation 130 something episodes later.
Yeah, it'll be cool because you'll have direct comparison from early, kind of in the middle, and then most recent.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
I mean, though, like in a biased way too, like some of the ones with my fiance are really cool too. And those will be so cool to look back, because we've done a few, and you could see the progression of our relationship and our lives and who we are. So those are fun. I don't know, some of even like the ones I've done with my mom are so cool. It's so cool and I think for her, and maybe for a lot of guests, when you do sit in that chair and you're the guest being interviewed, I think it might change the way you show up. because I learned things about her that I never knew.
Interesting.
And that was a cool dynamic of having Kyle there, is he would ask questions to my mother that I would never think to ask her. So I learned stuff about her, so some of my family members, that's so cool. And I don't know, those are some of the ones that are very special to me, but they're all cool.
Yeah. Like you said, trying to pick your favorite kid.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting my dad on.
Yeah.
That's
like that's the kind of, and we did, we recorded one with Kyle's father and his mother, and like those are cool. Cause then I'm sort of seeing that dynamic and seeing how cool it is for Kyle, and that's just as fun. And those are, I don't know, like they're just cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Getting my dad on will be great. He's in the building industry. So
he's got to be. Just pitch it to him and don't show him this episode so he doesn't catch on to you. Just say, hey, it's for the community.
Yeah.
Make it about what he's, going to give to the world, or your siblings, or your mom, and not how uncomfortable them knowing it's going to be that you're recorded. Just tell him, like, come on, you got to do this for the community. Don't be selfish.
I enjoy it, man. I love.
Do you think he'll do it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I could get him to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's pretty stubborn. Now I'm changing my answer, actually, now that you bring that up. But if I beg, he'll probably do it. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I said I was going to get back to it. We were talking about your wife and that stuff, and I pulled us off. What would somebody not know who didn't grow up in Montana or in Three Forks? What's
like, what benefit of being a local, or not benefit, but like what knowledge would I have as a local, or we would have as a local, that
or maybe a different perspective? And I'm sure in your business life you see people from all over the country and world. Is there anything that sticks out about being a Montanan, which could be a very subjective term depending on who you ask? Because I don't know what the threshold is of what makes you a Montanan, if it's been here a week or we're born here. But is there anything that you noticed, in yourself or in people that are born here that doesn't seem as obvious in the rest of the population?
I definitely do have something with that, but I notice it more myself. Being in Gallatin Valley, it's busy. We're going 24/7. Everything's building. Everything's expanding. A lot of my dad's family lives in Southern Illinois and in Texas, and I've spent a lot of time in both areas. And when we talk about the South, life is so different over there. It is so much slower. And I can't wait to come back to Montana, but there is this kind of resistance to going back to such a fast-paced environment. And so people think of Montana as this easy, relaxed mountain living. And unfortunately, we often prevent that from being the case. We make that not the case because we're just going. And I didn't get that perspective until I traveled. And that's not the case everywhere in Montana, but especially here in the Gallatin Valley, it's interesting how fast-paced things have become and how important everybody seems to be. Whereas we go visit my wife's parents in Sealy, and like everybody's riding around on four-wheelers and side-by-sides in downtown Sealy, because what else is there to do? So I don't know how that answers your question, but it's been an interesting perspective for me.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that. One is people will come here and still think it's so slow if they're depending on the city, right? And I would think probably more on the East Coast, and that's where I'm from. I didn't grow up in a city by any means, but there is a little bit of a neurotic, fast pace to everything. So that's an interesting perspective, because there's so many different levels and so many different contexts. Second, it's expensive here.
It's very expensive.
We're one of I don't know if it's the most expensive cities in the country, but I know Montana is one of the most expensive places to live. And it has a lot to do with Gallatin County and is it, what's Kalispell Whitefish? What county is that?
Flathead.
Flathead County.
Yeah.
So there's an element to feeling like you need to be doing something all the time just to afford it. I guess the third thing on top of that is some people just want to get after it and do everything too. So it could even be in a recreational sense. I'm going to go hike. I'm going to go run. I'm going to go fish. I'm floating the river. I'm doing this. We don't know how many days of summer we're getting. So we're taking advantage of all of them.
Yeah.
And then we don't know how many days of snow we're getting. So
I mean, it's all relative, right? People all complain about traffic on 19th, and I'll have a buddy go, well, have you ever driven in LA? It's like, come on, this is bad for Bozeman. Yeah. Obviously, we're not in LA. This is bad for Bozeman. So yes, there is a relevance there, but it does, I don't know, some of me longs for, maybe this is growing and maturing and I'm not a kid anymore and things were sunshine and rainbows when I was a kid, but it definitely seems like it's faster paced and everything's more urgent. So there is a little bit of a resistance to that, but I still want to come back. Okay, this is the greatest place. I have no desire to live anywhere else. I love visiting. I love traveling, but this is definitely home.
And I think that's such a natural human thing to want that simple life, that slower pace, and ironically, so many people come here because that's what they want. And so many people coming here has made it so expensive that it's almost recreated what a lot of people are longing to get away from. And this, I feel like that tells the story of humans as a whole. It is often what we do.
Yeah, my wife and I had this conversation 2 nights ago. We almost have to play the game in order to escape it.
Yeah.
And it's a frustrating realization because human nature is to resist. I'm not like that. I don't want to have to do that, but not that there's anything wrong with playing the game. It's not a negative, but I almost have to be in that fast-paced environment in order to escape it, to get that cabin in the woods.
Yeah, and there's almost a concept that I don't fully understand, but the types of things we do when we are trying really hard to resist something are the type of actions that keep recreating and perpetuating the exact the exact situation. And it's, I don't know, being a human's crazy, man.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
You hear, don't bring your politics here. Well, you don't like XYZ. It's human nature to accidentally bring your politics or try and implement the changes that you want to see. Again, you kind of just unfortunately have to play the game in order to get out, which there's nothing wrong with, but human nature is to resist for whatever reason. And I don't know why. I'm sure somebody far smarter than me has a good answer for that, but I'd be interested in learning that one.
Well, I just said this within the last week, and you brought up baseball. I grew up playing baseball, love baseball. There's much more of a baseball scene in upstate New York, and it is interesting how that is in the country, and it also makes a lot of sense why there isn't a huge baseball scene here. There's very long winters. There's a smaller population, all the things. And I said to my fiance, I would be okay with there being a much bigger baseball scene here. And then I said, I don't know if I'd want to move to a bigger city just to have more baseball in my life. And if I had to choose, do I want to have the amount of baseball there is now and stay here versus do I want to go to a big city for more baseball? This is what I would choose. Hi, folks. Quick note from me. If you don't already know, the goal of Mountain Mule is to build real connection between Montana's businesses and the people they serve. If this episode or any other has given you something worth thinking about, smiling at, passing along, I've got a small ask. Share it with a friend, text it to someone, consider following the show. Whether you're using our services directly or following and sharing the show, those simple actions help support this business as well as the businesses and guests that have been a part of the show. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses, local jobs, and this beautiful state. Now back to the show. I would be okay. I am okay with that trade-off because that's a conscious choice I've made. And I think people find themselves in that situation like I just explained, and I'm not immune of this either, thinking, well, how can I just get more baseball here? And I think that's the kind of thing that that is probably the concern with don't bring your politics here. There's to some extent there's always going to be a trade-off. So what do um, I don't know. Sometimes you can have it all. Sometimes you can't.
Well, and what's the fun in having it all? Now you
Yeah.
have nothing else to work toward.
Yeah. And you just don't appreciate it. That's why growing up where I grew up, it's very similar to the weather here. It's cold winters, hot summers, and that's given me such a great appreciation for, you know, I love summer because it's a long cold winter, and I love
Yeah.
winter because it's a long hot summer. And I think if I had one or the other too much, I'd probably just be a pretty spidey asshole about weather most of the time.
I think a lot of people move here thinking that it's going to be different, and then they realize how long the winter actually is. I always tell people you've got to have some kind of wintertime activity, because if you're not outside doing stuff in the wintertime, it's a long winter and you're going to get depressed and you're not going to like it here. Summer being 3 to 4 months and we're on fire for half of it, you've got to have outdoor stuff to do outside of that time.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about this place is it's really hard to want to stay inside. There's a lot of places where inside is the only quiet and halfway same place you're going to find.
Yeah. Oh, the benefit of being here is time spent outside.
Yeah.
My dad brought it up one time that so many people move here that don't ski, they don't hunt, they don't fish. Like, what else is there to do here in the woods? Like, if you're not into those things, it's going to be a tough environment for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We're so interesting. I'm not going to sit here and say I got it all figured out either.
Oh, me neither. Far from it, man. But having spent a lot of time here, I don't know, you pick some things up. Can't put a price on being able to recreate in the scenery that we have. It's one of the most beautiful places. And there's far cooler mountains out there, but they're not my backyard. So
yeah, people ask me that all the time. Does this ever get old? It really doesn't. You just got to take a minute to appreciate it. But it's kind of what you're saying. You go somewhere else and you look around and you're like, where's those beautiful mountains that are the backdrop of my life?
Yeah, it drives me nuts. My best friend lives in Iowa on top of a hill. I bet he's one of the highest places in Iowa at like 200 feet. And I go nuts without being able to see the mountains.
Yeah.
I don't know which way is north. Like you can see where the sun is, but yeah, I get turned around so quick.
Some buddies are coming into town this upcoming week for the wedding, and I've got a baseball game. And it's a night game here in Belgrade. And I told them, I'm like, come if you can and you want to. But there's something about the backdrop of the Bridgers and the lights at night. And I will, pause for a second or two sometimes when I'm going up to bat or just there playing, and it gives me chills. It's so cool. Like the combination of baseball, which is a sport I love, and the mountains and the lights, and like it feels like a dream. It does not feel real.
Yeah. Growing up playing baseball here, we did a lot of traveling. So we got some really cool baseball fields. The only problem with Montana is it's big and it's a lot of driving from A to B. And there's usually not a direct route.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm surprised how far some of the high school teams travel, all the sports teams around the state, because you need to have
we
teams
didn't
to play.
have high school baseball for a very long time. It's only been in the last couple of years that they've been able to implement it. And like you said, it's because of our season.
Yeah.
And we were blessed. I played on the Outlaws in high school. We were blessed with an indoor facility.
Oh, nice.
But most teams around here don't have access to that. And it makes for some short practice seasons and short baseball seasons.
Yeah. So you gotta get it back quick, and then
Yeah. Good luck.
Your podcast that you said you've done with your friends, is that published somewhere?
Yeah, it is actually.
Do you can we link that for the show notes with this?
Yeah, we can link it. I'll send you the link.
Cool.
So
is anything published for, what's the title of your upcoming podcast?
Bozeman Builder Science.
Okay.
Don't have anything published yet. I'm still still working on editing.
Yeah.
About Tuesday this week, I went, I'm going to hold off because I bet Tim has advice or something on this, and it might change how I go about editing this. So
I basically don't edit anything. Probably wasn't very helpful. Sorry.
super helpful.
When it's out, just hit me up and I'll put it in the notes anyway. So it'll be here, and I'll link the other one. Where does anyone find you for radon stuff if they want to have their home tested?
BozemanRadon.com, Bozeman Radon on Instagram. We're not as active on Facebook, but give us a call, send us an email, go to our website. It's pretty easy. 48 hours and we'll have your results.
Anything else you want to plug or promote or tell people about?
That's all I got, man.
Cool.
Thanks. This is fun.
Yeah, it was. This will be a cool one to put out, and I'm excited to hear the first episode of your new podcast,
Builder Science Podcast.
Yeah.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. I'm excited to see all the iterations and evolutions.
Yeah. Thanks for your help on this. It's been helpful.
Cool. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks for listening, folks. You can find the full blog post for every episode along with key takeaways and links at mountain-mule.com. If you haven't yet, consider following the show. That one small action helps these Montana businesses get seen, grow, and thrive, and it helps this podcast keep going too. If you know a business that would be a good fit for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out through the website or social. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses. See you on the next show.